Don't you find it just a little ironic that the very police that are breaking up all these protests on campus were trained by Israelis? That's right. Here we have young people protesting Israel's treatment of Palestinians, and it is those very people who are directing the response. I mean, come on. It's like I have been studying this for such a long time, people. And, you have to understand that propaganda, it's called by the Israelis Hasbara, but their propaganda is well rehearsed, well oiled, and they stick to the point, which is that anybody who hates Israel is anti-Semitic. And that word anti-Semitism, although it's not that old of a word, uh, is really what led to the British, through the Balfour Declaration, originally proposing the idea that Zionism could exist in Israel. And, this is, let me just tell you a few things. We sell arms to Israel. That's what our billions and billions and billions of dollars of aid goes to Israel. So what does Israel do with all those weapons? They sell them on the open market to our allies. So think about that. The United States, we think that their blood is not on our hands. But that's not true, because we are the ones who are perpetuating this myth of a homeland in Israel, for the Jews. It's like, people would probably say that I am anti-Semitic, but let me tell you, that word is used as a club to beat the crap out of people who don't obey, the common thinking. So why do I feel so strongly about this? And why have I been studying it for so many years? Take a look at the top of this page, folks, my YouTube channel commentary. That's a picture of me and my granddaughter, Tasneem Jazar. That photo was taken in the year 2006 when I visited them in Jordan. That's from a mountaintop overlooking the Jordan Valley. And believe me, that is a fertile valley, and it used to be where Palestinian families grew their olives and tended to their flocks and lived a life that was free of oppression. Well, actually, the oppression of the place goes back a long, long time, all the way back to the Crusades. But seriously, today we have students, young people, and I'm so proud of them for standing up for people that they don't even know. In some cases, I suppose they do, because there are Palestinian Americans all over the place. And their voice will not relent about what is going on with their people and what has been going on with their people since 1948, known to the Palestinians as the Nakba, the catastrophe. And that was when Israel became a nation in 1948. Of course, behind the scenes, and this is important too, behind the scenes you have these Christians in the United States who believe whatever they're told by their pastors, their leaders, their prophets, so to say, that the restoration of the state of Israel means that Jesus is coming back soon, because that is the place where he's supposed to show up. And ultimately, he's going to show up at the temple, and the temple will be built on top of the land that houses one of the holiest sites in all of Islam, and that is the temple in Jerusalem. So we have that to look forward to yet. And, the idea that Jesus is coming back drives these Christians to vote Republican, because they're in favor of Israel. Well, everybody's in favor of Israel in this country, at least those in positions of leadership, because it's good politics, it's good planning, it's good manipulating, and let me tell you, politicians lead the league in homers in terms of these kinds of pro-Israel stances. So we send all this money to Israel. They use it to sell the arms that they're getting to other countries, and that's a wonderful symbiotic relationship that the United States government has to do with the Israelis. But let's get back to my family. My oldest daughter, she had a lot of difficulty growing up, and I have to take some of the responsibility for that, and I am completely ashamed of myself in terms of any role that I played in her early age destruction. But she was in real trouble with her life. I mean, she was running with the wrong people. I mean, it was really bad. She brought a guy to my house that this guy was fully tatted up. He had no concern whatsoever, for my daughter, except that he was, having her whenever he wanted. And so out of that life, she meets a guy named Wasim Jassar. And Wasim, being the kind of man that he is, and I'm talking to you, this is a real man, he rescued her. Long story short, he taught her about Islam. She converted to Islam and has been happy as a clam ever since. I am so proud of her and the things that she has overcome. And she has given me 4 grandchildren that I really love and adore, but especially that little one up there, Tasneem. And let me tell you a little bit about her now. She's all grown up. She is a poet, so she's a very sensitive, creative type. And she's a Palestinian poet in Wisconsin. And I think she's going to go on to be the Palestinian poet, perhaps even in the world. Who knows what God has in store for her. But she is a beautiful, sensitive spirit who really feels the pain of her brothers and sisters who are suffering under the hands of the Israelis in the land that they used to occupy. My son-in-law, Wasim, his father, owns a house in Israel. They go back there to visit, but it's not the same. They were forced into Jordan in 1967 when my son-in-law was just a baby. And they moved to Jordan and tried to make a living. And, my father-in-law was, he was very good at what he did. And, he made a decent living in Jordan. But he educated my son-in-law, through the years. One of the things about Palestinian Americans, you will often find a key that is mounted and on the walls of the living room or the social gathering area of Palestinian homes. That key reminds them that the home they currently live in isn't their permanent home, that permanent home is back in what is now called Israel. And so my family opened up an entirely new window on the world to me when I visited them in Jordan, during 2006. My eyes were opened. I could see, television over there is very different than it is over here. So their window on the world is shaped much more by international affairs than our lives here in the U.S. So they're savvy. They know what's going on. They are not fooled by all of this propaganda. And this has been going on for decades, ladies and gentlemen. So my granddaughter, Tasneem, she writes wonderful poetry and deals with the suffering of the poor and the afflicted. And I know that is near God's heart. And let me just close with one final thing. And this one just astounds me about people in the U.S. The word Allah, as in Allah Akbar, the saying that you will hear, from so-called terrorists who are trying to disrupt things around the globe in favor of the Palestinians. But Allah is simply the Arabic word for God. And it's the same God that Christians and Jews worship. Same God. Allah is an Arabic word meaning God. It has no deeper meaning than that. And when people use it, opponents use it to try to paint them as worshiping some idol, or worshiping the prophet himself, they are just naive and dangerously so, because Allah is simply an Arabic word that means God. Christian churches in Arabic lands use the word Allah in their sermons, in their worship, because they are worshiping God. So the extent to which people in this country have been deceived, is what's behind everything that's going on that you witness on college campuses. Young people, and I'm really proud of them for sticking to their guns. I mean, it's almost like 1968 again. Here you have unrest on campuses, the same as we had, in protesting the Vietnam War. And, they're taking over, dean's offices and protesting on campuses. And then the Democratic National Convention occurred in Chicago, where there were actual riots and people got hurt. Guess what? The 2024 Democratic National Convention is again back in Chicago. So pardon me if I have a little deja vu about this coming summer. Anyway, educate yourself. Deconstruct the kinds of things you are being told by those who are in authority in our world under the sun. Remember that there's a higher power. There's a higher judge. And don't be surprised about anything you see or what happens, because this is a wrong that God is trying to make right. And let me tell you, you don't want to be ever on the wrong side of that. Of course, I could be wrong because I'm just a commentary.